Hello and welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, hi, I'm Cassidy. If it's not, thanks for always tuning into my videos. Today we're going over the series I want to binge next year. So my thought with this was that last year, one of my goals was to read more series and binge less series. Because I was having a hard time making content, giving recommendations, because I was such a binge reader that most of my reads in a year became either the same author or same series or something like that. Like I read Realm of the Elderlings 11 books in 4 months. I am such a binge reader normally. So I thought I would actually really struggle with that this year, but turns out I had no problems and I overcompensated, and now I have way too many series started, but yet there's a list of series I still want to start. So this is really hard. So in some ways this is a list of series I want to start, but more than that, I want to binge these books. I want to read these series in its entirety next year. I picked series that I knew were completed, that I wanted to read, and that I thought would be bingeable for myself. It wasn't just like, let's start a new series, because I need to stop doing that. I need to just binge. Like, I'm actually really good at completing series still. I don't have that many final books in a series, but I have a lot of first books. A lot of first books that I've read and not continued with. So I need to like stop that. I need to like keep going now. Like I'm back onto like, let's binge. Let's be myself again and just binge. So here I am. I don't know how many books are in this. I think that there's 9, which is an ugly number, so it might end up being 10. I don't know. Let's start with Inda by Sherwood Smith. This is a classic, I think, trilogy? I think it's only a trilogy. I hope it's only a trilogy. And this crosses so many buzzwords for me. It has a military setting. We go to a military academy, but it also, the second half, I believe, happens on boats, so it's got that water setting. We have a second son, which I tend to like stories about second sons. I don't know why. Maybe I just need to read more stories about first sons, but I like the books about the second sons. I think it's because the second sons end up going to the military often, and I like that setting. Essentially, in this world, Inda is the second son, and second sons are meant to be the military ruler of the world, the realm, you know, that his dad is ruling over. But he doesn't get to go to a military academy. Instead, his eldest brother goes to the military academy, learns like from the teachers, and then the eldest sons teach the second son. It kind of, I think, is meant to help shape your loyalty. I think it's actually a really cool idea. But in times of war, they don't have time to wait for the second son to then be trained by the firstborn son, so Inda is sent to the military academy, but there's a bunch of hate at the military academy for like second sons and stuff, and I think we're gonna read a lot about like prejudices and stuff like that, and I'm really excited. I'm really intrigued to read this. And yeah, I'm just excited to binge it. I believe it's only a trilogy. It could be a duology. It also says, it just says Inda and the Fox. It's either, I think it's a trilogy though, but yeah, I should probably know that better than I do. Next on this list is Django Wexler. Now I'm holding up the 1,000 names. I actually am unsure if I'll end up getting to the 1,000 names, because I know I want to read this after I read Powder Mage, because I've been told that this is the better flintlock fantasy, so I wanted to read Powder Mage first, as it's more well known, I think, than the Shadow Campaigns, but I've been told that Shadow Campaigns is better by people I trust. So I do want to read Powder Mage first and then read Shadow Campaigns, if that makes sense. So you will also see Powder Mage on this series. But because I think that Powder Mage will probably end up being a backlist pick, that this might not get read this year, but I do know I want to continue with Django Wexler because I'm obsessed with the Ashes of the Sun series, the Burning Blade and Silver Eye, and I just want to read more from Django Wexler. So I'm putting on this list, I want to binge a Django Wexler series, whether it is the Shadow Campaigns or if it's his YA one, which is like a sword of something. I don't know where my phone went, so I can't look it up, but I'll put the cover on the screen here. So one of these, the Shadow Campaigns is a flintlock fantasy, and then his YA one is just like, I think, a YA fantasy, but I'm excited. I think it's cool that Django Wexler has a middle grade, a YA. I would call Ashes of the Sun new adult, and then this adult, so I think it's kind of cool that he kind of crosses all those demographics, and it means that if you like him as a middle grade reader, you can grow up and continue to read his stories. And I think that that's really fascinating and really interesting. I don't know if that was done on purpose, but I really enjoyed that idea. And yeah, I'm just really excited to dive back into Django Wexler. I really enjoyed his characters and his world building in Ashes of the Sun. The next one is A Shadow in Summer, which is the Long Price Quartet by Daniel Abraham. I want to binge the Long Price Quartet, mostly because I'm terrified if I don't read these back to back, it'll be one of those reads that takes forever and I'll forget about. From like what I've heard about the series is it's a struggle a bit, but like a good struggle. People who love the series, but I do think that that's a little bit of a small number. I am really excited to read this one. I don't really know much about it. I know that each book follows a season, but that they are not in proper order, which is hilarious. And I know that there's something about poets, but I believe they're not actual poets. They just use the term poets as like people with the magic. They're not like writing poetry, but I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. The Andat are a sort of malevolent spiritual entity that when bound by an order of poets have power that can be used as a kind of magic. In the city of Sarikate, the local Andan under the control of the city poet is used to speed cotton harvest, but that and the economic future of the city is in jeopardy when a conspiracy involving a pregnant foreign girl goes awry, leaving her baby dead. The intricate plot unfolds from the viewpoints of a woman trade advisor who makes it her quest to find those responsible for the dead child, and two students of the Daikfo poet school, one an esteemed poet, the other an outcast, and their mutual lover, threesome, all of whom are caught in the wake of conspiracy's crime and will have their lives forever changed by it. Most otherworldly fantasy is anything but, yet here Abraham has created an inventive world and culture that seems very strange and alien, yet still somehow feels like an impressive start. I'm excited. Like, I am really intrigued by this one, and it's not too long, which is nice. This one is a long one. The Theriaria Revelations, which starts with Theft of Swords. This is actually a bind-up of book 1 and 2. I think it's really interesting that it's done that way. So technically there's 6 books in the series, but it's done within 3 books, if that makes sense. And I'm really excited to read this. This is essentially, if I'm being honest here with all of you, for Backlist, this series and the Powder Mage series are like up to bat. I want to read those. These are what I'm deciding between for our next pick, essentially. So I need to like figure something out and decide on that. But I'm really struggling between which one I want to do. I'm gonna guess that they'll both be done at some point, but I'm used to changing my mind a lot, so who knows. This one I honestly don't know a lot about. I just know that Michael J. Sullivan, this series spans like time. So like you're supposed to start here and read these books, but then there's prequel series that happen in the same world, completely unrelated. I've been told they're unrelated. You can read in any order, but that you'll see tidbits of like of what is to come. Like the buildings of the future and how they got there, you'll see in those past stories, you know? Like it's really interesting, I think, the way he set it up. It's in the style, I think it's a mix between Realm of the Elderlings and the Cosmere, and you just get to see like bits and pieces of like history and future, and I think that that's really interesting, and I'm really excited to try that out. But it's not completed yet, so we can't do the full series or anything for Backlist, but I would consider the first series, the Theriaria Revelations. Royce Melbourne, a skilled thief, and his mercenary partner, Hadrian Blackwater, make a profitable living carrying out dangerous assignments for conspiring nobles. Until they are hired to pilfer a famed sword, what appears to be just a simple job finds them framed for the murder of the king and trapped in a conspiracy that uncovers a plot far greater than the mere overthrow of a tiny kingdom. Can a self-serving thief and an idealistic swordsman survive long enough to unravel the first part of an ancient mystery that has toppled kings and destroyed empires? And so begins a tale of treachery and adventure, sword fighting, magic, myth, and legend. I think this sounds really cool. So I do want to binge this one in its entirety. I should say I'm counting Binge as like read in its entirety in the year. Not necessarily like read back to back. I don't need to sit there and read a full series in 3 days. But if I read them within the year, I'm counting that as a binge. I would like to keep my books flowing. So maybe one book 1 month and then the next book the next month, or like a couple books in between. I just want to read things in its entirety next year, essentially. The next one is the Nevernight Chronicles by J. Kristoff. I don't know if it's actually called Chronicles, but I just threw Chronicles in there. I, again, don't really know much about this, but the buzzwords for an assassin school really sold me. I know there's footnotes. I know that people either vibe with J. Kristoff's writing or don't, and I'm hoping I'm on the side of vibing. I haven't yet to try anything from him, but Empire the Vampire is on my TBR for December, January. But I think regardless of what I feel about Empire the Vampire, I do really want to try this series and hopefully binge it. I will say also, if I hate any of these first books, I'm not forcing myself to binge. That is like the thing that comes with putting a book on a list of like binging. If I hate it, I won't continue, and I'll still count it as a win. This is short, which I like. I've been told that there's ups and downs in the series, that I'll like some books better than others, and I'm excited to try it. I think that this is one of those ones that's talked about a lot that I have yet to read that I want to. It's one of the ones that the hype has still gotten me. I'm still intrigued. I want to be in the know for. I want to be on the inside being like, yeah, I love J. Kristoff, or no, I don't like J. Kristoff. So Yeah, I'm excited. In a world where the sun almost never set, a woman gains entry to a school of infamous assassins seeking vengeance against the powers that destroyed her family. That sounds interesting. Daughter of an executed traitor, Mia Cover is barely able to escape her father's failed rebellion. With her life, alone, and friendliness, she wanders a city built from the bones of a dead god, hunted by the Senate and its thugs. But her gifts for speaking with the shadow leads her to the hearth of a retired killer in a future she never imagined. Now Mia is apprenticed to the deadliest flock of assassins in the entire Republic, the Red Church. Deadly trials await for her within the church halls, blades and poisons, treachery and death. If she survives to initiation, she'll be inducted among the chosen of the Lady of Blessed Murder, and one step closer to the only thing she desires, revenge. I love a revenge story too. This synopsis sounds really good. It hits so many of my buzzwords, so I really hope I love it. Of Blood and Bone by John Gwynne. It's time, guys. I am working on Rune as we speak, and then I have to get to Wrath. But once I'm done the Faithful and the Fallen series, I know next year, I do know, I want to binge Of Blood and Bone. I think John Gwynne's book suffered from me waiting so long between the first and the second, and I don't want that to happen again. So I want to binge. I want to sit down and read this series like back to back, to be honest. This is one of the ones where I'm like, yes, back to back, let's do it. I'm excited. This is a trilogy. I own all 3 books. I'm excited. It takes place after the events of the Faithful and the Fallen series. It's in the same world. I can't read the back of the book to you because I don't know how the Faithful and Fallen series ends yet, and I don't want to read that at all to summarize anything for you because I don't want to be spoiled. But I am very excited to see what happens in this, how time continues. I actually really enjoy when series like go future in world and I can see how things have affected. I like when they don't need to like really connect completely, but I like being able to see how things in the past have connected to things in the future. I think that's really an intriguing way to write stories. And then we have The Awaking Fire by Anthony Ryan, which is book 1 of the Dragoness Memoria, so I want to binge the Dragoness Memoria. I'm just really intrigued by this one. This was on my Help Me Choose My Dragon TBR video list, and it was not picked, but I do think that this will be the book I read. Like, it is next year. Coming next year is the second part of that series where I'm going to read the books that I would have picked for myself, but they're going to be contingent on what you guys picked for me. So I will be picking an indie, a YA, and a just like anticipated one. I think this will be my anticipated, like super excited for. And I'm just excited to see how this one goes. I'm really excited. I like the concept of this. The blood of the dragons make the magic power, and I think we're running out of dragons. I think it seems a little bit steampunky, I think is the word I'm looking for. Maybe not steampunky. There's a spy and an assassin, a second lieutenant. All lives and empire clash and intertwine as the unknown and the known collide. All 3 must fight to turn the tide of a coming war or drown in its wake. 3 POVs. I like 3 POVs. That's exciting. The Waking Fire is part Indiana Jones, part Pirates of the Caribbean, and part Mistborn. Does this mean there's a water setting? Because if there is, this hits 2 buzzwords as well. It hits a lot of buzzwords. Military, I think, water, 3 POVs, dragons. I'm excited for this. I'm so excited for this one. And I need to get to it. But you will probably see this in the upcoming, I think it'll happen in February, where I read the rest of my dragon books. And then I'm hoping to do that entire video series again this year with more dragon books, because I always want to read more dragon books. How many was that so far? I have 1 more for sure, but do I need to put an extra series on? I think I do. You know, I could end at 8, but I'm going to make it 9. Because I'm not sure I'm getting to this month, I will be putting the Pariah by Anthony Ryan also on it. Anthony Ryan has 2 series that I'm excited to binge. I'm just very intrigued in his writing. And the last book of this series comes out next year. So it's The Pariah, the Martyr, and then, I forget the last one's name. The cover was just revealed. So I do really just want to read this. I'm excited to read it. And this follows our main character who was an outlaw, and something happens and he ends up going on a quest for revenge. And in order to do his revenge, he ends up working for one of the generals in the Emperor's army who is plagued by visions of demons. He has to kind of battle his morality and his vengeance that he wants, and I think it's going to be a really intriguing story, and I'm really excited for it. So I definitely want to binge this trilogy next year as well. Let's make it 10, because there's so many I want to read. The Emperor's Blade by Brian Stavley. this list got out of hand quick. It went from 8 to 10 real quickly. Someone stopped me. But I do own the audiobook for this and the second book in this series, and I know it's something I really want to get to. I literally know nothing about the series, but something about it calls to me. It is the Chronicles of the Unhewn Throne. I think Brian Stavley is another one who has written multiple books within the same world, and I'm just really fascinated by that concept. So I really enjoy that. But I like when you can read them out of order still. I don't know. I'm unsure. We're following the daughter and two sons of the Emperor of Anor, which is a sibling relationship that I like. He scattered them across the world, and they must somehow stay alive and unmask the assassin, but each of them also has a life path on which their father set them on. Destinies entangled with both ancient enemies and inscrutable gods. So essentially the Emperor died, but he sent his children away to like do their own journeys and live their own lives and kind of work towards the future that he wants. And when he's dead, we follow the siblings trying to figure out who killed their father, but also go on their journey, which I think is really cool. We follow Caden, the heir to the Unhewn Throne, who has spent 8 years sequestered in a remote mountain monastery. Religious, buzzword. Learning the enigmatic disciplines of monks devoted to the blank god. Their rituals hold the key to an ancient power he must master before it's too late. An ocean away, we follow Valen, who endures the brutal training of the Quartet elite soldiers who fly into battle on gigantic black hawks. Military setting and animal companions. Buzzwords. But before he can set out to save Caden, Valen must survive one horrific final test. I love a test. At the heart of the Empire, Minister Adair, elevated to her station by one of the Emperor's final acts, is determined to prove herself to her people, but Adair also believes she knows who murdered her father, and she will stop at nothing and risk everything to see that justice meted out. That's a political point of view. 3 POVs with a million of my buzzwords. I'm so glad I found this and put this on this list because I think that I could adore this. I'm super excited for this. This sounds so good. And then the last book on this list we've talked about a couple times. It is Powder Mage, and this is a flintlock fantasy. I'm super excited about it. We're going to see like gun. I think the magic has something to do with gunpowder. I'm super intrigued about. As I said, this is one of the contenders for the next backlist pick after we're done the Lycanis trilogy. It has been a contender for a really long time, and I've seen a couple people mention wanting to read it, so I'm pretty sure this one will win, but not entirely sure. As I say, I go on my whims. It really probably depends that in March or whatever time we're done, whatever is calling to me most will be the one I say, or I'll put it to a vote. Like, I might pick a third book and then put a vote for everyone to pick which ones they want to read, which is what I did with the Winnowing Flame trilogy, which is our most successful one yet, so maybe I should do that, because then we'll have success again. If I'm not in charge of backlist, we'll have success. Anyways, I don't really know that much about this one, but I'm hyped for this one. It's something I really, really enjoy. It's just fantasy books that are a little bit different, and I think that this one will be a little bit different, and as I said, I'm excited to get to the shadow campaigns later on, so I need to get to both of these, and yeah. Thanks for hanging out with me in this video. If you're excited to read any of these or have any thoughts about any of these, leave them down below. And if you're not feeling chatty, you can leave me a food emoji. Leave me some food. I'm hungry. And then if you'd like to connect with me on other platforms, my Bookstagram, my Book Twitter, my Goodreads, and my Patreon, all linked in the description bar below. Have yourselves an absolutely incredible day.